We want to thank our amazing sponsor, the Rope Drop Queen herself, Michelle McKnight. And honestly, right now is still a great time to book a Walt Disney World vacation or a Disney Cruise Line or any other type of vacation because you're going to need it. She does all the work. She has saved us tons of money on numerous vacations. We love working with Michelle. You will too. Her email is in the show notes, so let her know that you're ready for a vacation. Now, on to the show.
Helping you navigate the Disney parks.
With the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world.
You're listening to Rope Drop Radio.
Welcome to a bonus episode of Rope Drop Radio. Derek and Doug here with the Kent Mullins, who is our local expert with all things Disney. But Doug, we are going to take a step away from Walt Disney World and talk about something that you will never do, Doug, even though this is the year to do it. Something that I've always wanted to do, and honestly was planning on going this year, earlier in the year, until COVID happened. But that's, of course, Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights. Kent, you go every year. This was supposed to be a big year for them, and instead, a few weeks before, it may have been August when they said, we're not doing it.
They definitely waited to the very last minute possible to be like, I don't think we can pull it off. It's heartbreaking. This is year 30. So this is a big anniversary year for them. And 25 was amazing. And so all the talk was 30 was going to be even bigger and better. And so it's kind of a shame. Hopefully I'm sure all of it will be saved until next year and they'll kind of, trot it all back out. A lot of it, but it's bittersweet, and luckily we got a little taste of it this year. We got 2 houses open.
Yeah, you guys got 2 houses, which is better than none, and that's why we had you on. It's Halloween week, and so what better way to talk about a little scariness, and that's of course with the Universal Horror Nights. And so tell me about 2 houses. Tooth Fairy is one of them, am I right?
Yep. So we do have a Tooth Fairy house. It's kind of set in a story, so it's set storybook, kind of black and white, starts out the house, and you go through the story of this tooth fairy that comes in and takes teeth, and then it takes teeth from adults, and it just kind of overruns the house. I'd say it's pretty good in the scale. It's kind of along the lines of the scary tale houses in years past, like the fairy tale that turned evil. But it's well done. The story, like I said, starts out as a story. You see the book and the pages as you kind of enter the first room, and then you kind of live into the story and it turns real world. So it's like you're there. And then at the end of the house, it goes back into like the end of the story. So it goes back onto the paper. So all in all, a little bunch of these goofy alien looking things is what I call them, but they all pop out and try to take teeth.
Okay.
Do you leave with a quarter?
You get nothing.
But you have all your teeth right there. Doug's ready to go down there. Doug, you could pass out cards after the attraction
appropriately for me, and so I missed my chance. Darn.
But it's an original house. I think they'll be able to. Every house tells a story, much like every attraction tells a story at Walt Disney World. Every house tells a story. So start to finish, you learn characters, and the characters build over the life of the story. And as you enter the house, if you're brave enough to keep your eyes open and kind of take in everything, you really get to see the depth and the detail of not only the sets, but of the story and the character development as you pass through the environment.
Awesome. And there's another house too. I forgot what that one's called. But
yeah, For me, I got this one slightly ahead of Tooth Fairy. Actually, it has a really good house. It's Bride of Frankenstein Lives. Essentially, Frankenstein's killed in the first room of the house, and his bride is none too pleased. So she is now... backtrack a little bit. Frankenstein was killed in a war, in a part of a building fell on him is what killed him. So there's this big battle raging between Frankenstein and vampires. So Bride of Frankenstein then decides that in order to bring back Frankenstein, she's going to steal the immortality of vampires to try to bring him back to life. So the room goes as she's trying these different experiments and caging vampires and everything in the house to do her experiments on, till eventually in the end of the house you find out if she's able to bring back Frankenstein or not. So it's really well done. You see a lot of classic monsters. They also have little Easter eggs in there of other classic monsters in the Universal lore. from Swamp Thing to the Faceless Man or whatever he's called. So all those guys are in there, and it's really well done. Scenery's great. The lights are really good. I would say it's missing a wow moment, like that thing that's going to carry from year to year. They're like, man, you remember that year way back, this scene? But all in all, really good. Really, really good. Really strong house.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room with it. How is it with social distancing, feeling safe, masks, all the things that COVID has made theme parks endure this year?
Yeah, so just like you would walk into the park, everything has a mask. Every scare actor has a mask, and they're mostly behind plexiglass. So in the boo holes where they would jump out and stick their face out or their hand or whatever they're doing, now is covered with plexiglass. So that doesn't really happen. They can't really pop out so much and kind of get really into your personal space because they are behind glass. But they do stagger people, the people that work inside the house, the non-scare actors, but the people that work flow in the house, they'll like hold you at a point and hold the people behind you until it clears so that no one gets close to each other. So they've done a really good job of making sure everybody's really safe. There's no way, I will say this though, in a typical Horror Nights crowd, there's no way that would work. Just if you had that same size crowd, lines would be, they're already ridiculous for having Horror Nights, but now you're looking at another 2 hours, 3 hours on top of that. So it works really well for the environment it's in. It's during the day. So it's kind of weird when you go into a house and you get that environment and that spooky sense, and you walk out and, Marilyn Monroe's playing on a stage right next to you.
Yeah.
So you don't get the full environment. You don't get the chainsaw gangs and all that, but you do get that little taste of going through those two houses that, were obviously originals that Universal did.
And where are the houses at in the park?
So they're on sound stages right behind the stage, the music venue stage. They're back kind of behind the rock and roller coaster, back behind the Rip Ride Rocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they built all of them. So they built every house. They were all ready to go. And then now they're just going to tear them all down, the ones they didn't use. They decided to open these two. I think that was the plan all along. There were rumors they were going to try to do more than that. I never saw that happening. So they opened these two houses because I figured they thought, well, we built them. We got to do something. We can't just let them go completely to waste. So this is the right decision for all of us. The funny thing is they still... Oh, they built the bars too. So the bars in the park, like the Halloween bars they usually build, those are still built and up and running, and they're selling the specialty drinks with the specialty cups.
They got to make some money back somehow, for sure.
On all that stuff they bought, they bought all that stuff to sell, and then it's just sorry. So if you're in town and you can get there, it's worth it. And the lines have been relatively short. I think I waited 15 minutes during a weekday morning. So, I went through each house 3 or 4 times. So it is worth it.
Did you ever feel like the plexiglass ruined some of the scares because you can see it?
Yeah, it does. It tames it down a little bit. You definitely saw a lot more kids because it's a normal day. So parents are dragging kids through it a lot more.
Totally would do that.
Yeah. So, but it definitely gives stuff away. Especially your first time through the house, you're like, okay, there's plexiglass there. Obviously, something's going to happen at that point. But it tames it. But for COVID, it's kind of the best you can expect, I think.
So Doug could maybe do it.
There's a chance.
There's a chance that you could have done it this year, Doug.
Yeah, Doug could definitely do it. I think Doug could do it on a regular year.
Oh.
But
next year, Doug, us 3. We're going down.
Yeah, once travel is greenlit and things are open, it's going to be hard to say no to opportunities. Just saying. Right? I'm so ready to go on a cruise right now. You have no idea.
You would do a Halloween horror cruise at this point.
I would. Now that's a cruise, not just a regular Halloween Horror Nights. I'm not quite there yet. But
I'm just glad they're offering something. That you're right. They built these houses. And when because it was 0 hour, just nope, not doing. They'd already hired scare actors.
Yep, they were already rehearsing some of them.
That's crazy. So,
do you think these two were just the easiest to modify? Maybe.
I think their original content, so they owned it. They didn't have to pay a licensing fee for it. So and they were in the sound stages where they can operate them. So they were over in that area. So I think that's just kind of how they chose the ones they chose, is they owned it, and they were on that side where they had the place to put the crowd, and then everything else that's not open that was on that side of the park is stuff that was licensed. That's how I think they did it. They're like, we don't have to pay anybody to open these. We own these. Let's open these. We can control the crowd here.
That makes
Makes
sense.
sense. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Well, I'm glad it's better than nothing. So that's why I wanted to have you on. It is Halloween week, so definitely nothing better than Halloween Horror Nights. But yeah, I got more than what Mickey's Not So Scary got this year, Doug, which was nothing.
Like 3 pumpkins.
Yeah, in Main Street. There's
Not even scarecrows up at the end of Main Street. There's not even
it's
jack-o'-lanterns at the top of Main Street. They said a
weird.
taste of fall, and it was like, that's not a taste. That's like a tease. Yeah.
I still wonder if they're going to call next year HHN 30 or HHN 31. It's supposed to be 30 this year, but I wonder if they're counting it or not.
What are they?
and it's got like a
officially
star, an
calling it?
asterisk by it.
What are they officially calling it this year?
It's Halloween Horror Nights 20. It's supposed to be Halloween Horror Nights 2020 30. So it's 30 years. So that was the name, but I just wonder, since 30 years, or did 30 years go off, and now we're going 31 next year. But I guarantee you the house, because there's a Beetlejuice house. I mean, it's all, but, there's supposed to be a Beetlejuice house that was built that, obviously they would have to pay licensing on if they open. So that never made it to light. So I'm sure that's coming back. There's a Billy Eilish house that was supposed to come. Yeah. That was the one everybody was like, is this going to work? But that was, that's another one that I know that they own the rights, or they bought the rights for, that they didn't produce. So all that stuff, I think the big question is, do they bring it back next year, or do they be like, okay, we're just moving on from that property? So,
and hopefully we are all done with this by next year, and we're all back to full capacity, normal Halloween Horror Nights,
Amen.
Mickey's Not So Scary, pumpkin patches, all sorts of fall fun. And who
meanwhile,
knows, trick or treating
California is still closed.
Well, I mean, can they even trick or treat? I know Halloween's in a couple days, but we can at least trick or treat here, I think.
Yeah, we're going to be doing that here in Florida.
There's no law saying we can't. I know a lot of people that aren't going to. The party we normally go to is not happening, but it's like 100 people crammed into a house. So that would be bad. Right?
Our neighborhood got together and kind of was like, okay, we're going to be safe. We're going to do this. We all have kids. It's like the kids' neighborhood, so we'll figure it out. So throw candy. We need Kent just chucking like candy bars at kids from like 20 feet away.
Might just let Alden do that.
Ooh,
just
I
stand
like
on the front porch and just stay away.
All right, well, final question. Are you guys dressing up for Halloween this year?
No.
As a grumpy old man,
okay,
maybe.
there you go. No.
I might actually yell at kids to get off my lawn.
I got a Baby Yoda mask. Oh, you've seen it, Doug.
I've
so
seen
yes,
it. It's
I will
creepy.
be walking around with that. So,
I
right.
mean, your Baby Yoda's height.
Oh, and you know what's the best part about this episode? Comes out like the day or two before Mandalorian season 2, so we'll have to talk about that as well with Baby Yoda coming back. So there we go. Universal Studios. I'm glad they did something. Kent, I'm glad you got to go a few times because you're like the #1 Horror Nights guy.
It's an event I look forward to every year.
I don't think you would have made it if they didn't have anything. You'd been really grumpy. Grumpier than Doug.
Yes.
Oof.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to Rope Drop Radio. Have a happy Halloween. Be safe. Trick or treat. Have fun. And let us know what. And we're going to post up on social media. Show us some pictures of your kids, hopefully in some fun Disney costumes, having a good time. So thank you again. Happy Halloween from the guys at Rope Drop Radio.